first, when we heard this, I thought maybe it might have been an acquaintance, or because she was very beautiful, maybe someone just stalked her. And then as time went on, they had found DNA that they took from the crime scene had matched DNA in LA. He had attacked a woman and her child, her 9-year-old child, in LA. And so they were able to get a video, but it was the back of his head. So it was really hard to try to find who he was. It's like 1 in 8 billion people on the earth. And so it was just hard. Where is he? And how come we haven't got him yet? Has he hurt somebody else? It's like those were all the kind of questions that ran through our heads. It was really, like truly, it was really a miracle of God.
Just one day after Rachel was found, the sheriff's office said a DNA sample was found at the crime scene and was matched to a man that was wanted for a home invasion and an assault of a 9-year-old girl in LA 5 months earlier.
A 9-year-old
correct?
Girl and a mom.
And
it was, yeah, I think it was like 2 weeks. They had gotten the DNA, ran it, it came back really quickly.
Yeah.
And it was just because of the crime itself. They wanted to find this person as soon as possible.
Right, because obviously this is somebody you don't want walking around, particularly
Yes.
the gruesome nature of the crime. And ultimately, they were able to identify him in Tulsa, Oklahoma, correct?
Yes.
Police in Tulsa, Oklahoma, assisted by our federal partners, located and arrested Rachel's murderer, Victor Antonio Martinez Hernandez. So far, we have learned that the suspect is a 23-year-old citizen of El Salvador who illegally crossed the border into the United States in February of 2023. It's my understanding that this suspect, this monster, fled to the United States illegally after committing the brutal murder of a young woman in El Salvador a month early in January of 2023. Once in our country, and likely emboldened by his anonymity, he brutally attacked a 9-year-old girl and her mother during a home invasion in March of 2023 in Los Angeles. And as everyone I believe is aware, that was our first DNA match linking Rachel's case to the Los Angeles case.
And what did you find out at that point? Who was this? Where did he come from? What did you learn?
It turned out that he was an illegal immigrant. He had come to the border 3 times, had been turned away by Border Patrol, and then the 4th time he was a got away. And the reason why he had come to America was because he's accused of committing a murder in his home country in El Salvador. So he was running from that murder when he came here.
Right, so he was suspected of a murder in his home country, which was El Salvador,
Correct.
and he came to our border, got away, and got into this country,
Correct.
and committed multiple crimes once he was here.
Yes.
At least alleged. He hasn't been convicted of these as yet, but he's been charged. And this is before murdering your daughter, which he's now charged with and is in jail, correct?
Yes, waiting trial.
From a legal standpoint, he's charged with first-degree murder at this point?
Correct. First-degree murder and first-degree rape, and then some lesser charges and a kidnapping charge as well.
Okay. And is this a strong case they have against this individual? Is he likely to go to trial? Are they likely to plead this out? What's likely to happen?
We really don't know right now. The public defender who represents him has been playing pretty close to the vest. We've had a couple of hearings. He doesn't speak English, so he hasn't said much on the record. They're not releasing a lot of information. But as a former prosecutor and as a defense attorney, I know that individuals, a lot of times when they're looking at life in prison without the possibility of parole, which is what he's looking at, a lot of times they like to roll the dice. And they say, you know what, I'm just going to try my luck and see what happens, and maybe I get lucky, a lesser offense, and I don't have to face that life without parole. So we don't know. We've got trial dates set next year for him, and we just have to wait. He has to make a decision as to what he wants to do.
You took this case on pro bono, right?
We did, yeah.
You had no idea it was going to turn into what it has.
Well, It's interesting. The Morans came to see us about a week after they found Rachel's body. And they all sat down in our conference room and they said, we need help. And I said, well, look, we've got DNA. We've got a doorbell camera that shows this suspect. They're going to catch this guy in no time, right? Weeks went on, nothing new. So we decided, let's start doing something proactive here to see if we can help the detectives. We started with digital campaigns across, because we knew he was in California and Maryland, where we were putting up digital campaigns in Spanish-speaking language because we knew he was an Hispanic male. We then sent flyers to 80,000 plus people in the neighborhood around the house where he committed the crime. We actually figured out where the house was based on Google Maps. We sent 80,000 people flyers out there with his picture, with the doorbell camera, and with Rachel's information as well. And we'd raise more money. We said, look, there's $35,000 on the table. Come to us, tell us his name, no questions asked, here's $35,000. Then we went a step further and we had Patty shoot a commercial that we started running later, right before he got caught, because we figured he was probably coming in to the southern border. It'd been going on too long. As attorneys, we thought, this isn't making sense that nobody knows this guy. So we shot a commercial with Patty and ran that along the southern border, as well as Los Angeles and Bel Air, pleading for somebody to come forward and identify this guy. And fortunately, the FBI and the Hartford County Sheriff's Department were successful in using genealogy to identify him, his family, and that's what gave him up and caught him in Tulsa.
Mm-hmm. He was apprehended 3 times in 2023, right?
Yep.
And what happened when he was apprehended?
Nothing. They should have been following the DNA Fingerprint Act, and they should have been swabbing him, a $4 kit that takes 30 seconds, that they never did. They literally grabbed him and said, you shouldn't be here, and expelled him back to Mexico 3 times. He comes across the 4th time in February of 2023, goes to California and starts his crime spree in America.
And does he have known gang ties? What's his affiliation?
It's believed that he has gang ties. And then they also had the Interpol warrant out of El Salvador where he had killed this woman. Had they known that, had they stopped him and said, let's check this guy out. Let's see if he's got tattoos. Let's see if he's got gang affiliation. They would have stopped him, at least detained him. But they didn't do that. And that ultimately led to him coming in this country and causing just so much havoc.
It makes me very angry and I'm very sad because I lost somebody very precious that didn't have to die. My grandchildren have lost a mother that didn't have to die. And Rachel didn't go out running that trail that day expecting to die. No one expects to walk down the street and they're walking to the end of their life. Nobody expects that. It was completely preventable. Nobody's doing anything to stop this.
$36 trillion. That is the U.S. debt, and it gets deeper and deeper by the day. Our debt has never been higher, nor have the stakes. The government is looking to slash the federal budget by $2 trillion, and no one knows what that will mean for your job, savings, and future. I've seen a lot in my time, and there's one thing I know for sure. You need to prepare before it's too late. I trust Preserve Gold to help protect my wealth, and I strongly urge you to do the same. They are the only precious metals firm I trust and recommend to my family, friends, and audience, and they have a special offer just for you. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 to get your free precious metals guide from Preserve Gold. With gold prices recently breaking records and analysts predicting this trend to continue throughout 2025, you cannot afford to wait. As a bonus, you can get up to $15,000 with a qualified purchase from Preserve Gold. So don't wait. Text Dr. Phil to 50505 today.
I think people, not politicians, are going to make the change happen. It's our families, it's our moms, it's our children, it's our grandchildren, it's our wives, that we need to stand up and we need to tell the government as a family of Americans that this is not acceptable. No death by an illegal immigrant is acceptable. I couldn't be there for my daughter, but I don't want another mother to feel this pain that I feel. And I don't want another child to die. It's been over a year. And I still feel this tremendous, pain and sorrow. And I've had people that have lost children, and they tell me it never goes away. And I'm like, oh my gosh, how am I gonna live like this for the rest of my life? I don't want anyone else to feel this way. And I want children to feel safe to go to the playground or to walk with their mom and dad on the trail and ride their bikes and not have to live in fear. So that's why I'm doing this.
Patty, you appeared before a committee and testified before the Committee on Homeland Security, the hearing titled A Country Without Borders, how the Biden-Harris open borders policies have undermined our safety and security, which also featured testimony from retired U.S. Border Patrol agent, a California lawmaker, and an Arizona sheriff.
We need to close the borders. If they're coming over illegal, it's because they're hiding something. I just left the southern border where I spoke to Border Patrol, and they showed me their gunshot wounds. They told me their stories about how they suffered broken necks, broken backs, fractured skulls. It's a war zone there, and we need to close it. We need to put those policies back into place that kept our citizens safe. Thank you.
What was your message?
Well, my message at the time was that Americans are dying, and they're dying because we have open borders and we have unvetted people coming into our nation. But while I was sitting there, the thing that was interesting to me the most was the gentleman that was sitting next to me. He had a pile of identification from the illegal immigrants. This identification cards and papers were what these immigrants needed to move and migrate from their countries through Mexico to get to the American border. And they dumped all their paperwork and their IDs right at the Mexican side of the border and stepped into America. And once they stepped into America, they could create their own identity because they had no papers to prove who they were. And because there were so many hundreds of thousands coming over the border and not enough people to vet them, they would just say, what's your name? What country are you from? And they would put it into a computer, but they didn't have to verify. So people could come across the border, completely change their name, their date of birth, their country, create a whole new identity, have free access into our country, and then wait for a hearing, and most never show up for the hearing. So my message was, close the border. Americans are dying. Children are dying. 11, 12, 13-year-old children are dying. They're being raped and strangled and murdered. And it's happening in every state. We don't hear all the news that is going on in each individual state because either they haven't found the body yet or the person survived. And it's too a shame to say what has happened to them, but it's happening in every state. It's a very dangerous policy to have open borders.